You know that feeling? Like
Yeah.
your brain is just buzzing constantly with thoughts, worries, that never-ending to-do list.
Absolutely. It's like internal background noise that's always on.
Right. And what if you could just find a way to turn down the volume on that? Find a bit of, I don't know, quiet inside.
Well, that's exactly what we're getting into today. It's this fascinating world of meditation.
Yeah, we're doing a deep dive, pulling from some really interesting insights shared in the From Human to Superhuman podcast series.
They had some great stuff in there.
So our mission really is to break down the basics. What is meditation? What are the different flavors of it? And what can it actually do for you? All based on what came up in that series.
That sounds good. Ready to maybe quiet that mental chatter a little.
Let's try. So first things first, what are we actually talking about when we say meditation? The series used a phrase, stilling the mind.
Yeah, stilling the mind. That's the core idea they presented.
Okay, but stilling it. That sounds, well, pretty intense, almost impossible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it can sound that way at first.
Yeah.
Like trying to just stop thinking altogether.
Exactly. Is that even the goal? To have, like, zero thoughts?
Not really. That's a common misconception, actually. Trying to force thoughts away often just makes you more, tangled up in them.
Right, that makes sense. Frustrating.
Exactly. It's more about learning to step back, to observe the thoughts that come and go without getting swept away by every single one, creating a bit of space.
Ah, okay. So you're not fighting the thoughts, you're just watching them float by, like clouds.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And the podcast mentioned this isn't some new fad. It's ancient. It comes from India, right? The rishis.
It does, yeah. Incredibly deep roots. These ancient Indian rishis, these sages, they were exploring this thousands of years ago.
Wow.
And it's amazing how relevant it still feels. There's this ancient sage, Patanjali. He wrote the Yoga Sutras.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those.
Well, he had this Sanskrit phrase that kind of nails it. Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha.
Okay, Yoga's Chitta Vritti Nirodha has. Sounds profound. What's the plain English version?
It basically translates to something like the cessation of the mind's thought waves, or maybe stilling the modifications of the mind stuff.
Mind waves. Okay, so our minds are always creating these ripples, these thoughts and feelings.
Exactly. And this ancient wisdom is saying, if you can learn to gently quiet down those fluctuations, those vrittis, you can tap into something deeper, a more stable kind of core awareness underneath all the mental activity.
Right, getting beyond the surface noise. Okay, I think I get the core idea. Less mental chaos, more inner calm. So how do you actually do it? The podcast talked about different methods, right?
Yeah, several different approaches. What were some of the main ones they covered?
Well, one that's probably quite familiar to many people is mindfulness meditation.
Mindfulness. Okay. I hear that term a lot.
Right. And the essence of it is really about being present, anchoring yourself in the now.
So paying attention to, like right here, right now.
Exactly. Your breath, maybe sensations in your body, sounds around you, whatever's happening in this exact moment. The key is doing it without judging it and without getting lost in thoughts about yesterday or tomorrow.
So if my mind wanders off to, like, dinner plans or something I forgot to do?
Totally normal. You just notice, thinking about dinner, and gently, without beating yourself up, bring your focus back, maybe back to your breath.
Gently bring it back. Okay. What else did they mention? Something about sounds.
Yes. Mantra meditation. This uses repetition.
Like chanting.
Sort of, yeah. It involves repeating a specific sound or a word or maybe a short phrase, often something considered sacred. The podcast gave examples like Om.
The classic one.
Or Soham, which translates roughly to, I am that.
Interesting. What's the idea behind repeating it over and over?
Well, a couple of things. The sound itself, the vibration, can be quite soothing, but also the repetition acts like an anchor for your attention. It gives your busy mind something simple to focus on, making it less likely to drift off into random thoughts.
Okay, so it kind of occupies the foreground of your mind.
Precisely. It helps focus your concentration. Then there's breath awareness.
Just focusing on breathing.
Basically, yes.
Wow.
They also linked it to pranayama, which is really the broader yogic science of breath control. But in its simplest meditation form, it's just paying attention to the natural inhale and exhale.
That seems pretty accessible. Your breath is always right there.
It is. It's a constant portable anchor you can always return to. Very grounding.
Makes sense. Was there one more? Something about staring.
Yeah. Sort of. It's called Tritaka, or gazing meditation.
Tritaka, okay.
With this one, you keep your eyes open, but you soften your gaze and focus it on a single point. Could be a candle flame, a dot on the wall, anything small. You try to keep your focus steady without blinking if possible for a comfortable period.
Without blinking. Sounds intense.
It can be, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's meant to really sharpen focus and concentration, and it can also bring about a sense of stillness.
Wow. Okay. So quite a few different paths to potentially quiet the mind. Mindfulness, mantra, breath, gazing.
Mm-hmm. Different tools for different people or maybe different moods.
Right. Now let's talk payoff. Beyond just feeling maybe a bit calmer for a few minutes, what are the real benefits? The podcast got into some of the science, didn't it?
It did, and that's where things get really compelling. There's a growing body of research showing meditation isn't just, woo-woo. It can actually change your brain.
Change your brain. How so?
Well, the series mentioned studies suggesting regular practice can, for instance, decrease activity in the amygdala.
The amygdala, that's the fear center, right? The stress response part.
Exactly. So less activity there potentially means less reactivity to stress, lower anxiety levels. It seems to physically help regulate those responses.
That's, wow, actually rewiring how you handle stress. So less anxiety, less stress. What else? Did they mention other things?
Oh, yeah. Improvements in focus, concentration, even productivity were mentioned. Better memory recall, too.
Makes sense if you're training your attention muscle, I guess.
Right. And also emotional balance. By becoming more aware of your thoughts and feelings without instantly reacting to them, you get better at managing them. You create that little bit of space between the feeling and your response. Less reactivity, more conscious choice.
I like that idea, creating space. That really resonates. Now, the podcast also hinted at something, maybe deeper, beyond just the practical brain benefits, spiritual growth.
Yes, definitely. And for many people, this is a huge part of the motivation. As you practice more, go deeper.
Yeah.
It can lead to this feeling of connecting with something more fundamental within yourself, like tapping into your true self, maybe, beyond just the everyday personality and thoughts.
Connecting with your true self, that's a big idea.
It is. It's about moving past the surface chatter and experiencing a deeper sense of being, of peace, maybe even interconnectedness for some.
It's fascinating how this internal practice can ripple outwards. The podcast used some stories from Indian mythology too, didn't they, to illustrate this power?
They did. These stories really capture the transformative potential of dedicated practice, what they call tapasya.
Tapasya, like intense focus or discipline.
Exactly. Take Maharishi Valmiki. The story goes, as the podcast shared, that he started out as Ratnakar, a highway robber, a dacoit.
A bandit. Seriously.
Yes. But through intense, prolonged meditation, serious tapasya, he apparently underwent this complete inner transformation.
And became?
Maharishi Valmiki, the sage credited with writing the epic Ramayana.
Wow. From bandit to epic poet sage through meditation. That's quite the turnaround.
Isn't it? It really highlights the potential for profound change. And there was another one they mentioned, Vishwamitra.
Ah, yes, the king who became a rishi. What was his story?
He was already a powerful king, had everything materially, but he sought something more. Through immense effort in meditation and spiritual practices, his own tapasya, he eventually transformed his consciousness from that of a king to that of Brahmarishi, one of the highest orders of sages. The podcast even mentioned he's associated with realizing the Gayatri Mantra through his practice.
The Gayatri Mantra. Another really powerful one. So these aren't just relaxation techniques. They're potentially paths to fundamental transformation, according to these traditions.
That's the picture they paint, yes. The power of focused, sustained inner work.
Incredible stories. Makes you think, doesn't it? Okay, so for someone listening, maybe intrigued but totally new to this, the podcast offered a little taste, a short guided practice. Maybe we could recreate that just briefly.
Absolutely. It's a simple, accessible start. Okay, so if you're listening and you're in a place where you can do this safely, just find a comfortable seat. Try to keep your back relatively straight, but relaxed.
Okay, sitting comfortably, back straight-ish.
Good. Now, you can just gently close your eyes, if that feels all right.
Eyes closed. Got it.
Now, just bring your attention to your breath. Don't try to change it or force it. Just notice it. Feel the air coming in through your nostrils, and feel it leaving your body as you exhale. Maybe take one slightly deeper breath in, and then a slow, complete breath out, letting go.
Just focusing on the breath. Wow. Yeah, other thoughts are definitely still popping up. Is that okay?
Perfectly okay. Totally normal. When thoughts come and they will just notice them, oh, there's a thought. Like seeing a cloud drift by. No need to follow it or judge it.
Okay, don't engage.
Exactly. Just acknowledge it and then gently, kindly guide your focus back to the simple sensation of breathing in and breathing out.
Pause, feeling my chest rise and fall.
Just stay with that for another moment or two.
Uh,
The simple rhythm of your breath.
Pause.
All right. And now, whenever you feel ready, just gently begin to bring your awareness back to the room around you. Maybe wiggle your fingers or toes slightly. And slowly, gently, you can open your eyes.
Okay. Wow, even just, 2 minutes? It does feel different, like hitting a mini pause button.
Yeah, that's often how it starts, a little moment of stillness. And really, as the podcast suggested, this is just dipping a toe in the water.
Definitely feels that way.
So we've talked about what meditation fundamentally is, that stilling the mind idea. We looked at different ways to approach it, like mindfulness, mantra.
The breath, the gazing.
Right. And we touched on the benefits from the scientific less stress, better focus, to the more profound potential for spiritual connection. All drawing from that, from Human to Superhuman series.
It really feels like the start of something bigger. Didn't the podcast mention exploring other concepts down the line, like Kundalini?
They did hint at that, yes.
Sure.
Describing Kundalini as this kind of powerful, latent energy within us that deeper practices might awaken. So yeah, definitely more potential layers to explore.
Layers upon layers. But for now, this deep dive was a great starting point.
Absolutely. I think the main takeaway is just the possibility, right? The potential that exists within each of us to find a bit more inner quiet, a stronger connection to ourselves through practices like these.
Yeah. So maybe final thought for everyone listening, something to mull over.
Maybe just this. Consider that even when life feels chaotic and noisy on the outside, there's often a place of stillness available inside. You have access to it.
That's a comforting thought.
It is. So maybe stay curious about your own inner world. Allow yourself moments of quiet. Explore what that connection to yourself feels like. There's incredible potential right